Hey, and it's Wednesday night. Everyone's back in the house doing the things that we're supposed to do.
Yeah, we're somewhat healthy now, right?
Yeah, well, I guess I might be on the unhealthy side. I might be leaning towards the unhealthy side. I got some kind of allergy thing going on today, which I don't normally have allergies, but my eyes are swelled up and they're itching. And oh my gosh, so I must have got into something. But, and right now I've taken, I don't know, 72 tablespoons of Benadryl, and either I'll make it through this live and go to bed or not. Well, stick around and find out.
Right.
We'll start taking bets on when I'm going to pass out or say switch pitch, right? So
less than a minute. Less than a minute.
Oh, I don't know. The counter's not up here. Is it? Oh no, it was 1:47 because you forgot the intro is a minute long.
Oh, okay. Because it shows 54 on mine right here. So
yeah. All right. Well, to kick our Wednesday night off, of course, we couldn't do this without all the folks watching tonight. So the first one, I'm going to give a shout out to everybody here. LP94 Lars, Danny Boyd. Oh, and speaking of that, LP94, if he's on here, I made that dude a moderator.
Oh, so he's here.
Yeah, he might be here. Let's see. Danny Boyd is here. Michael Robert Embry, Miss Cat G, Buffdale Campo, Bobby Frizzell Racing. Let's see. Fab Race Mod Repeat. Hello from Northeast Dragway. KS Skyhawk, aka Buick 350 V8 Power. His name is Roger. I'm going to call him Roger from now on because that's just a lot of screen name. Let's see here. Buick Smith, Keith Calitri, Blue Grit Garage, Michael Schmidt, Mohawk 62. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Mostly old parts. Ron Ward, greetings from Kansas. He made it through the the frozen tundra of Kansas for this winter.
Wasn't it below zero there? Wasn't it?
I don't know. It gets cold in Kansas.
Man.
And especially since it's like my home state of Illinois where it's flat and it's a lot of plains. So when there gets to be like wind, it's like serious, where you have like, it might be 20 degrees outside, but with wind chill, it might be 22 below zero.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine that. Doesn't sound fun.
No, that's where if you probably have never used heat, have you, in a gas tank?
No.
Or ever heard of it? Okay, heat was invented for us Midwesterners that had to go out and drive to work in the morning in our carbureted cars in the 70s and 80s, I guess. I don't know. I was driving in the 90s. So the heat, though, is literally methanol.
I've seen that. Yeah. It says HEET. Yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah.
And what happens is when it's cold like that and you have these big temperature swings that go from like, say, 30 degrees to below zero.
Condensation.
The condensation in the gas tank, you're supposed to leave the tank full, but the condensation in the tank actually becomes so bad that the water will settle to essentially the bottom or in the bottom of the fuel lines, right? In the freeze solid in the fuel line. And you put the heat in there, it keeps it from gathering in the fuel line.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Mama M3, Indecisive Garage. Let's see. Dizzy Izzy is here. He said, good evening, folks. Out to Scrubs, Dallas and Shane. Well, we weren't here last week. Professor P was under the weather, and it happened like almost instantly in the afternoon. And then I decided, instead of just clamoring to find somebody to fill in, it was easier just to take the evening off.
Yeah, I lost my voice like Wednesday at about like 2 or 3. Just no voice. It was all over with.
Michael Schmidt says that we're myth blabbers bringing Swami to hot rodding.
Yeah.
Dust Devil Garage, Val 360 Jimmy. Let's see, Miss One Eyed Cat, Clayton's Toolbox. Okay. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and John Wilburn is here.
Oh, Mr. Wilburn. What's going on, bud?
John Wilburn. So, mostly old parts, as Ron Ward says. Dallas, is that a pic of you dredging for gold in the video intro? That is a picture of me panning for gold.
Was that did you do that like Julian? Because they have a place like that in Julian up there in California.
No, you'll never guess. I was actually in outside of Melbourne, Australia, in the place called the Goldfields.
Oh, well, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. And my soon-to-be ex-wife took that picture, which if I would have known this all was going to happen, I would have pushed her off into the water. Okay. Let's see. Michael Roberts has shown up, and Miss Kedji says, Quadrajet bro. And I feel so stupid. Like, I put my new video up today, and it was how I got the Quadrajet sorted out. Sheen and I have talked about it on the phone, but it's been like, if I had longer hair, I would have pulled it all out. I could not get this thing to idle, and it was killing me. And it was just the idling issue. Everything else seemed to be fine, but the idle circuit needed more fuel. And so I decided to just like go off the deep end. But when you start doing Quadrajet modifications, you start making something that's like, you can't go back.
Yeah.
And,
you don't want to go too far because you
right.
Too far.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. And so I really had to like I had to sever some of the things that couldn't be done. And in the book that I was using, like Cliff Ruggles' book on the Quadrajet performance, it's really good, but all of his recipes are based off 70 thousandths air bleeds in the carburetor. And I have 125 thousandths air bleed, which is virtually an 1/8 inch hole. And nothing matched up. And I couldn't change it over to 70 thousandths because it would have changed the air fuel ratio at like part throttle and wide open throttle. So, and I didn't know where to start, like once I start modifying the carb that bad, where do you start with jets and metering rods? I didn't want to go to the dyno and spend a whole bunch of money to find out I was going to spend the next 7 hours trying to jet and metering rod this son of a bitch just so it would run. And so it was like, I got to stick with, I just need to get it to idle. And that's what that whole thing was about. But I shot over 30 hours of video of me tearing this carburetor apart, putting it back together, rejetting it, put it back on, try to get it run right, getting pissed off, throwing wrenches, taking it apart, put more jets in it, put a different metering rod set in it, spring, put it together, and it would not run. And I'm like, what in the world? And come to find out, this carburetor that I'm using is, if you guys were at No Name Nationals, or if you remember Clint Street Machines from No Name Nationals, he had a 300 Buick I built for him, and he had it in his S10, like a 89 S10, right? Pretty clean looking truck. He did a really good job on the engine install because it looks almost like it's factory, but it had this Quadrajet carb on it, and the truck hadn't ran in like, what was it, 5-6 years?
Yeah.
And when he started it up, it sucked up a whole bunch of crap from the tank into the carburetor. So at No Name Nationals, Clint goes and buys a can of carb cleaner and I think a set of gaskets. I don't remember, but I blew the carburetor apart in the pits at No Name Nationals, cleaned it all out, right? Because it got a bunch of crap in it, and then put it back together so he could drive around at No Name Nationals and make it out on the. Actually wanted to make it out on the track in his own truck and get this picture taken there, and that's what he did. But when it was all over, he gave me the carburetor back, and I used it for this Easy 302. And I couldn't get it to run right. Well, when I finally took it apart this last time, I pulled the idle tubes out of it, and it had sucked up a bunch of crap from Clint's gas tank into the idle tubes, and it was no wonder it wouldn't work. So I ended up cleaning them out and then drilling them out a little bit bigger, and then now we got plenty of fuel at idle. And tomorrow I got to actually pull the top off and change the accelerator pump, and I think that she's ready to go. There's a few things I'm going to do. I'm going to throw on a collector on the header that's 18 inches long, just so we know the, realistic power number. Because I looked at Holdner's video, and they had dyno headers on his engine he tested. So they're like the best header you could use to test anything, because it literally just comes straight out of the head and then goes down. There's no chassis clearance issues or nothing. I got freaking frag stock car headers. So I'm going to put the collectors on it. All right. 38 Racing says, tech to start off with, would advancing a stock cam improve high RPM operation? The opposite.
Exact opposite. Yep. Yeah. Retard it for higher RPM. And all you're really doing, though, is just closing things later, closing the intake valve later. And that's all That's where you're going to gain the power.
And with the stock cam, you're only going to see maybe 200-300 RPM more.
It's not worth it because it's going to idle like crap then.
Yeah, and it'll get poor fuel economy.
Yes.
Let's see. All right. We got 2 Hacks Garage in the house. Sorry, I've been kind of rambling on my own about the EZ302. I'm excited. Hey, so this is what I'm going to do for a video, for the dyno video. I'm going to call a select few of these people in here. I'm thinking Professor P, maybe Andy Wood, maybe Bobby Frizzell, maybe John Wilburn, maybe Ron Ward. Who knows? Maybe even Richard Holdner himself. But get a hold of a few of these people and see what kind of dyno numbers this thing's going to make, and then compare it to Holdner's DZ302 that he did that made 357 horse. So I think it's worth a gamble to see what this stock parts combo is going to make, and to get everybody to kind of throw in their cash on it. And
doing it now would be great because it'll match the California weather, so it won't be humid. So you'll have a nice dry air. So it'll be decent at least.
I can actually compete with them. Yeah,
right.
With them. Yeah. I think I might do that. I need to start doing that, calling people and getting their thoughts on it, and I'm going to record them. And then the winner, the one with the closest numbers, the winner take all. I thought that would be pretty good. So what we'll do is we'll make it as simple, like a $10, $20 bet, something like that. And,
make it fun. Just to make it fun, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And see what we get. So, okay. Levi's Backyard Performance says, not a tech question, but do I need to bet on? Who do I need to bet on for Triple Crown? I don't know. Right now, it sounds like Ryan Roberts from James and James Show, or RSR Garage. Or RSR Performance. Is it RSR Performance? I think so.
And Steve from Big Block 402, he's in there.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did throw in his hat for that. I forgot. And then there's somebody else that's building. He's got a 318 Dodge, so with a stick shift car.
Ooh.
Right. Let's see. Ron Ward says it was -10 for 3 days straight.
Yeah, that sucks. That sounds terrible.
And there you go. See, Ron Ward saying it's methanol in a bottle.
Yeah.
Unity Motorsports Garage. Andy Wood says, howdy, folks. It's good to see everyone here tonight.
What's up, Andy?
Okay. Oh, man. Buick Smith says 4 days ago it was -47 degrees without wind chill in the morning. Today it was 53 degrees. Gotta love North Dakota.
That sounds terrible. Absolutely terrible. It was like 9 degrees here, and I was just like, this sucks. Like everything was frozen. It just
for you to be fair, Shade, it's like in the, I guess it was the 1990s or late 80s when they had that big famine in Ethiopia and everyone was dying, right? They're like all starving to death, and it shows all these kids like starving and all these, and everybody in America was like, oh no, we got to send them money for food. And what they ended up doing was like funding UNICEF. And then they got like one chicken for everybody in Ethiopia, that was literally it. And the sad part was when you start looking at comparing stuff like that, everyone in America was like, oh my God, how could they live like that? They're in such impoverished and horrible conditions. Well, no, they're starving, but how they're living is how they normally live. It's just to you that they're used to seeing a mall and a freaking nice house and a perfect yard. That looks terrible to you.
But
right?
-47 sounds terrible.
Right. But so this poor guy, though, Mr. Buick Smith here, Thomas, he would be like, walk outside of his house. He's probably never been anywhere else and was like, hey, I love this place. It's so great. At least it's not -50,
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. For me, it was 9, and I was just like, this is miserable. It was miserable.
Okay. Dylan Levi says, Ray, I'm not a participant, too much on my plate. Yeah, you've been saying that for a little while, but you always ask me questions about it. I'm glad you're a big fan of it, though.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Let's see. KS Skyhawk, aka Buick 350 V8 Power, says it was 10 below 0 5 days ago. it was almost 70 near Kansas City today. Oh, you and Ron Ward are probably in the same driving distance of each other. It was 77 here today.
It was nice, beautiful outside. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I went and laid on this swing, and I think the swing had a bunch of dander on it from animals. I'm allergic to cats and dogs. I think that's probably what I've gotten into. Let's see here. Okay, let's see if we can catch up. Oh, well, Andy Woods says the EZ302 needs a VRS, and bam, it's rocking. It's funny that you say that because Professor P, here's a little hint to what's coming up next when we do this dyno video. Professor P is going to attempt to drive from his locality here in Tennessee to where I'm going to be dyno in this EZ302. And we're going to compare my Q-Jet to a VRS, right?
That's right. 650 out of the box.
650 out of the box, no tuning, VRS, drop it on.
Mhm.
Quadrajet sent many times out of the box and been adjusted and tuned on by yours truly. I probably just made it worse. But let's see. Michael Schmidt says Dallas, a recent carb video, that engine was a ripper, quick through the revs. That's the EZ302. We're gonna find out what kind of power it really makes.
Oh wow! If you're there, we're way behind.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm at. 707. So, yeah. Ron Ward says 125 thousandths is way bigger than an air bleed.
That's a leak.
Yeah, it's like a huge, it'd be like getting shot by like 50 cal. Okay. I did, and it happens almost every year. So unfortunately, Bowling Green gets flooded almost every year. Two Hacks says they got 2 sets of DLC lifters in today.
Yep.
Sweet.
People are using. I just want to say, man, a lot of people are using that discount. So keep at it, man. The more people buying from it, eventually it'll get to the WD, and then it's going to be like almost 30% off.
Oh, right. Michael Schmidt says, advancing and retarding a cam. How is this easily done on an old flathead if there is no ready-made kit system?
Well, it depends on your keyway on the flathead. There's 2 different versions of those. You have an early and a late model on those flathead cams. But some of them there was a keyway on one of them, and then you can basically just press them on, and basically it's just a gear. But yeah, I did it quite a bit with those. Yeah, there's 2 versions, an early and late version on those cams, but yeah, basically it's just a keyway type deal on some of them.
Yeah, they just have an offset key you can buy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Because I want to say the offset key that you use for, I can't remember. I think it's a crankshaft key, right? And a crankshaft key is off 2 degrees, but that makes it 4 degrees at the cam. Is that right? Or is it the other way around? 4 degrees at the crank and 2 degrees at the cam. I think it's 2 degrees at the cam.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So I am way far behind, but 2X Jeff threw a guess in here: 320 horsepower and 285 foot-pounds of torque. That's way low, my friend. I'm telling you that now. I can tell just by the way it revs. It is not 320 horse. I have had 302 Fords, was race motors that didn't run like this thing does. But we'll find out. Ron Ward says, my first guess, 325 horsepower, 401 foot-pounds of torque. Second pull, I think the torque is high. Second pull, 333 horsepower and 410 foot-pounds of torque. Third pull, 345 horse and 425 foot-pounds of torque. We're going to find out. So let's see. Old McDonald has a car, says our 18 inches of snow is now down to about 4 thanks to snow melt.
We have 0 now.
Yeah, we had 2.5. And in Tennessee, that's like Armageddon just happened.
Oh,
literally life stops.
The snow monster from the reindeer game, that they have, it comes out on the side, just everything ends, everything stops.
There was 36 crashes in just Clarksville, Tennessee alone. Let's see. Clayton's Toolbox says, will going from 1.6 rockers to 1.7 rockers affect the cam much? aside from spring bind, any issues?
Technically, the only thing you're really going to gain on that on the duration is only going to add like 1.5 degrees or a degree. Where you really see it is not necessarily off the seat; it's in the area above that, because it's going to lift it higher. So you're going to start to see it really make noticeable marks above 100 lift as far as at the valve, and then it just parabolics more. So it doesn't really make too much more duration, but we've measured it, and I believe it on a decent camshaft, it's about 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees difference at 50, but you really see it as far as air into the curve. It does make a big difference there.
I think no matter what, I've always seen gains on that no matter what.
Yes.
Right? As long as you don't hit coil bind, you're good.
Yeah.
And it's generally worth, if you were to just give it a number, I mean, on a dyno, it'd be kind of lame just to see it on a dyno because it might only make like 15 horsepower. But I guarantee you at low RPM, probably around like 2,500 to 3,000 RPM, I bet you it's probably 30 horsepower.
Yeah. It's a bit, you can really feel it in the mid-range numbers.
Let's see. Buick Smith says his guess for the 302 is 419 horsepower and 326 foot-pounds of torque, and he's giving it some zinging numbers there. So we're going to find out. It's going to be definitely interesting when we get that thing on the dyno. Bobby Frizzell says the VRS will donkey stomp that Q-Jet. Right,
for the win.
That's fine, Hey, and I had to actually explain it to somebody today in the comments on the video. Like, why would you use that POS carburetor? Like, I have $45 in that Q-Jet. All right, for dollar per power, like I'll bet you that Q-Jet is the winner by far. But it's not a race carb. It's not. I just had to get the idle. So, but. Here would be the upset of the century is if that Q-Jet runs a circle around that VRS. I doubt it will, but we'll find out. Let's see. Levi's Backyard Performance says, well, my theory is if I can't participate, I can support it with enthusiasm. I also then get to enjoy watching everyone work on their cars and see how they do things. It is going to be fun because it's the first couple of years, and this is what makes a new class exciting. When you jump in the first couple of years, you are the cutting edge. You are the leading hat, right? The things that you think of help you win the class, and those are the things that end up setting the pace for the entire class, pretty much through its life. Its life expectancy, I guess. But Mama M3, let's see, or Mama M Cubed says. You better smash that like button, everyone. So get out there and smash that like button for us.
Smash it.
Yeah. Go smash it with your thumb. Okay. Unity Motorsports Garage says the VRS was worth right at 25 horsepower on that 408 Chevy that made 500 horse. So, wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to have my work cut out for me over that Q-Jet.
That's usually about the running game. It's about 20 to 25.
Well, what's funny is like, that's what I was trying to explain to Shane. I've done it to a couple of people actually. There isn't a single thing on this engine that's not factory GM stuff, and I did that on purpose. I wanted it to be like if you had a apples to apples comparison of a DZ302, and then if you think about it, the DZ302 was a cubic inch limited based engine at General Motors that had the highest of technology in it at that time. It had the best technology you could get in 1967, 8, and 9. So all I did was I took that same cubic inch limited stuff and I applied it to what if in 1997 or 1998 they came out with an engine that was a direct replacement for the DZ302, but used all of the engineering differences of the Vortec head, the roller cam, the things that had happened in the previous 30 years difference, and I thought that would be pretty neat comparison because you're looking at literally what you're looking at is nothing but engineering science, 30 years of evolution of the same engine. Yeah. So But I mean, I don't have anything exotic. It doesn't have beehive valve springs, which I wish I would have put on there because they were available in 1998. They would have came on the LS. I could have put it on there, but I didn't. Um, I have a stock set of untouched Vortec heads on the thing. It's all stock GM stuff. And the intake manifold that's on it is a GM dual plane. It's a high-rise dual plane. And I did that on purpose because that's exactly what the DZ302 came with. So let's see. And then Bobby Purcell says, Andy, I now own 4 of them for a reason. So I guess he's a believer. Old McDonald has a car, says, which is more buildable, upgradable Mopar engine, the 6.1 or the 6.4?
Okay, they both have their good points and their bad points. 6.1 non-VVT, it's a good block. A 6.4 is a little bigger bore, also a good block, but you can get a better block with the BGE with that, and it's got a few other things. But here's the biggest issue: is going to be the timing chain. So when you have like the new Dart block, the biggest horsepower one that they have is actually with the 6.1 style, which is the non-VVT style camshaft. The VVT style camshaft has got extra holes in it. You're going to be plugging all that stuff off. Plus, you can only on those run a single timing chain as of right now, and then how the timing picks up on that. With the 6.1 style non-VVT, you can get a double row. So it really comes down to it. Now, my 68 Dart, the road race car that I'm going to build, it's got a 6.1 base block for one reason, because it's going to be high RPM for a very long time. So I wanted to have the double row time chain on it, so that way it will stay in time. 6.4 is going to be going in this one style engine, but that's got the BGE block, but it's going to have a timing chain on it, so that way it's a single row, but it's a drag engine, so it's not going to be at high RPM for very long. So make an incredible amount of power, but it's not going to be there for very long. So you got to balance them out. Look at what you're going to do. If this is just a driver, get the one that's more less expensive. The 6.4 will have better heads than the 6.1 out of the box. So if you can get them for the same cost, I would go with the 6.4. If the 6.1 is cheaper, I'd go with the 6.1. As far as heads go, the 6.1 has got a decent flow on the intake, not so great on the exhaust, so your camshaft's going to have to count for that. 6.4 flows like 360 CFM out of the box. Those things are incredibly awesome. In their Apache style heads, you really don't even have to degrade them. If you get a 6.4 with a set of headers, just a camshaft, nothing crazy, just a standard camshaft, like 220s, 230s, duration at 50, something in the 114 LSA, something on the 230, 240. They regularly make 500 horse at the tires, 600 horsepower at the crank. So it's really easy to make that kind of power with. If you're asking me, I would do the 6.4. I would get a short valve runner intake. So that way you have a little power, a little extra torque. It's worth about 40 to 50 foot-pounds of torque in the bottom end. Over the 6.1, the 6.1, it doesn't have the active runner, short valve runner. So it makes decent power on top. On top, they're going to be very comfortable as far as the intake flow, but the 6.4 is going to be better all the way around. So really comes down to what you want, what you're looking for, and what kind of money you want to spend, and what's available. That's where I would go. But they both have their pros and cons.
Hey, one thing I wanted to ask you about?
Sure.
That Hemi from this Gen 3 Hemi thing. You remember when the Engine Masters was actually a magazine, and before it became a YouTube internet sensation?
Yep.
Engine Masters, the big ticket back then, like, let's see, the first couple of years was the cleavers. And then the one that replaced the cleaver was the Gen 3 Hemi.
Yes.
And they were using an intake manifold from Mopar Performance called like the Tower.
Yeah.
It was like this huge, tall, super high-rise single plane.
Yeah, they still made. They're still made. Ritter makes one, and then Indy makes one, and then Mancini Racing, they have theirs also.
Oh, really? They all got their own version.
But they're basically all the same off the Mopar.
I didn't know if they were still around or not, and I kind of wonder because the heads improved so much in 2009, but those when I was I guess Well, I guess it doesn't really matter because they were probably using the later heads, the Eagle heads. Isn't that what it is?
Mhm.
Eagle heads?
Eagle heads, yeah.
Yeah, they were probably using those in the Engine Masters because that was about 2009, 10, 11,
Mhm.
somewhere around there.
Yeah,
Those heads would have.
so it would be the same thing as basically port design as a 6.4. The real difference between those is really the port size and the intake valve size, and then the short valve runner side of that. But they all really kind of bolt up in the same spot.
All right. Ron Ward says, and I'm way behind. The Easy 302 has a QJet. It can't help but to have incredible torque and versus horsepower. I think it had a bit of both. But 25 horsepower is probably what's being left on the table. Andrew Nelson says it's going to be 507 to 511 horsepower. That might be optimistic. I don't know. I think that's a bit high, but I'm assuming it'd be in comparison with a GT40P Ford small block is what I think it would be comparison with like an eCam, and those combos used to net about 380, 390 horsepower. So I'm thinking it's probably somewhere around there. But I think what we're going to find is that it's going to make every bit that 357 that the DZ did, but it's going to make it at a lower RPM. I think it's going to be like 65, 6,700, somewhere around there instead of like 7,500, 7,800. So,
yeah,
Danny Boyd wants to know, he's got a tech question here about a Whirlpool Design 2000 commercial washer. You want to take this one, Shane?
No. Yeah,
I'm sorry, wrong tech show.
You should probably just skip ahead for a while, just because.
Let's see. You think I should just skip ahead and catch up?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because they're coming faster than we're moving.
All right. BNR Racing said without metering rods, primary jets, power piston springs, 8 adjustable part throttle model allows just one chosen power piston springs. Secondary air door must be timed correctly on the dyno, no lead spots. I'm going to take my metering rods, jets, power piston springs, and my tools to adjust the secondary air door on the dyno. It'll be obvious when it's not coming in fast enough. And then the big one is really it just goes under full throttle, right? You just load the whole engine under full throttle. So there's not really any drivability that you're looking at here. You just want to get the air fuel ratio in the ballpark. And I think I'm just going to do that with secondary metering rods and an adjustable part throttle if I have to. Let's see. Buick Smith says, in general, on engines using fast burn heads, do they have early or late exhaust opening events?
Well, the fast burn is just a type of. It's just how the head swirl is. Is he asking?
Yeah, and I
he's
think
asking about the camshaft.
I don't know. I see. Here's what was weird. If you really go back and look at the big picture, the fast burn technology thing that came out about when was that? About 94, I guess, is when that stuff started to come out. And Mopar, I think, was the first one to do it with like a Magnum, and then I think it was then Chevrolet, and then or maybe Ford did it. Ford did it with the GT40P, and then you went to the Vortec. So, but I don't know. The Vortec really is, and you know what? It probably was Chevrolet because see, Chevrolet had the LT1 came out in '92, and the LT1, the Vortec virtually is an LT1, just non-reverse cooling and a cast iron head. So I think that's what that is. But I don't think there is any. None of the timing events were changed on it. It's more or less just the whole way that it promotes swirling in the combustion chamber and the fire, the spread of the explosion across the chamber. So, hence the fast burn. Let's see. Ron Ward says 1969 technology was putting men on the moon. 2025 technology is no longer putting men on the moon. Yes, but this is like 1997, 1998 technology. So we were still doing men on the moon and in space.
Right.
Yeah. And 2025, everyone is scared. I don't think anybody's scared. I'm actually liking what's going on within our government right now, where they're pulling back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz to see how all this stuff is working, and they're finding all kinds of cockroaches back there. So I'm digging it. Let's see. Let's see. BNR says nothing will ever match a Q-Jet balance of drivability, fuel economy, and power. Talking 20 plus miles a gallon with highway gears. You're right, but the Thermoquad does match it. It's virtually the same carburetor, just actually with a better. In my opinion, it has the better fuel bowls, right? It has two, just like the Carter AFB. But it fixes all the shortcomings of the Quadrajet. That was the whole purpose of that plastic body. But I do like the idea of the Quadrajet being the best, but I think the Thermoquad actually does better. Racing, how much horsepower am I hoping for? I don't think it'll be all that high. Remember, it's just an LT4 hot cam and it's a stock Vortec head. If you look at a 355 Chevy, it probably, with a Vortec head and just a decent cam on, they probably made about 370 to 400 horse. I think that's probably where you're going to see, but it's just going to be occurring at higher RPM than a Chevrolet, than a 350. Let's see. Andrew Nelson says, anyone else looking at the Six Smokies event?
We are going. I'm going. And Dallas is probably going to go with me. We'll talk about that later when we catch up, because we still got 10 more minutes to catch up on this. So we'll talk about that when we catch up on the.
Ron Ward wants to know 68 Dart road race car. You've been holding out on me, Shane. I'm going to build something similar to E. Booger's green brick.
Right there, 68 Dart, a triangulated 4-link on the rear end, tubular front end, and it's coilovers all the way around. 68 Dart, with a TKX. Actually, I got number 2 in the country when it came out. 6.1 with a 6.4 intake. The engine made 600 horsepower, and then I got a 8 3/4 for that with an aluminum chunk in the center of it. Now that's probably going to go away because it's probably going to break eventually. But yeah, that's it right there. That's actually when I first started ramping up my channel again for the very first No Name Nationals. That's what I was building. I was going to bring that, but then life started happening. So then I just put that on hold, and I realized I was actually working on that car more, doing it way faster than I wanted to. That's always been my dream car, 68 Dart with a Hemi and a 4-speed, but things changed and I wanted to have a road race car, so a Cone Dodger. So that's what it is. And I didn't want to just build it and have it done. I wanted to enjoy it. So I backed off of it for a little bit. I'm going to finish up with this now because of Six Smokies. I'm going to get Plan Z. We'll talk about that later for that. But then that's going to go back on the block to get done.
Valve 360 Jimmy says, is there any way to epoxy some fittings into the Gen 3 Hemi valve covers? There's no room underneath to use a nut. I want to run lines into a catch can.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. You could just do it from the intake. On the intake manifold, where you fill it up, that's actually where the breather vents are. You can go in from there, but yes, you can do that. But there's really no need for that. You can just run it off the breather where you fill it up.
Valley pan, right?
Yeah. Well, no, there's no valley. It's a solid cast iron there. It's not like it's not like an LS where that comes off. They usually use the fill tube where you fill it up at. There's an actual breather. There's one on both sides. So the breather side of that fill, you can just come off of those off the head. Makes it really easy.
Lot Burns says mostly old parts. E Booger's green brick now has a Gen 3 Hemi. I've driven it. It rocks. Running a 5-speed Tremec, lots of fun. Now, well, why don't you go ahead and give them a rundown on what your 68 Dart is?
That's what I just did.
Oh, you give them the whole rundown?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I told them about the engine performance and everything. It's a triangular 4-link and everything. I just did it really quick, but yeah, that's it's got a TKX in it. So it's, I got the 068 overdrive in it for that. And basically the idea of this is I'm going to run all 3 open road classes. So I want to do the Silver State Classic. I want to do the Texas one. I want to do the Nebraska race. I want to try to get at least to 150 miles an hour over here in, is it Blytheville or
Blytheville?
Yeah, Blytheville. I want to at least get it at least 150 with that. That's a first goal. and then do like the Optima, challenges, and then start doing some of the cone dodging. Actually, what I was really working on is when MIR was open, they had a road course there. We'd actually run down the drag strip, and they had all this other stuff. When that place closed down, I kind of lost interest in that. Then they started bringing out some parking lot cone dodging. But this thing's really built for more speed than just 20 miles an hour in a parking lot. So
So Ron Ward says mostly old parts. Shane, explain to me why direct connection 484, 284 cam in a 383 idles like a top fueler when cold. 241 degrees at 50, 108 lobe separation.
because it's a big cam for a really small cubic inch engine. You put that same cam in a 440, it swallows it up, and you barely hear it. It's just a cubic inch of
fuel at it when the choke is on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's a really big cam for technically a small cubic inch engine with a really good head on it. It's probably got 906 heads on it. So, yeah.
Two Hacks is saying they're doing a DZ 292 build. Can't wait to get it on the dyno. Let's see. BNR Racing says that GM set up most Quadrajet muscle car areas for primaries to control about 60% fuel delivery, wide open throttle, secondary 40%. You can change, of course. I'm just going to go, I'm going to look at overall, since it's going to be pretty much wide open, I'm going to look at overall air fuel ratio, and then I'll probably just adjust with secondary metering rods just to see what I can get out of it. But I do have the adjustable part throttle, but that's generally just drivability. Primary metering rods are just drivability, and at wide open throttle, the metering rods are out of the jets anyway, and it's just dumping fuel.
Yeah.
So, BNR Racing says 425 to 430 horsepower is a good number. That's where I think it's probably going to fall somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's. I'm right in that number too, somewhere. I'm not going to give out my numbers. I'm just saying that BNR Racing is closer to what I was going to say.
Well, that's going to suck if you end up winning and saying, "Hey, it's 425 horse," and the BNR is going to be like, "I want my cut, buddy."
Because it's not. I already told you what I was thinking about it on the phone. It's not that. So
no, I don't. Okay. Let's see. Frizzell Racing says, Andrew, yes, I'm on the gasser list. Oh, so that's right. He's going to submit 6 Smokies.
Oh.
And I'd asked him literally yesterday before you called, or no, 2 days ago. Anyway, when he got accepted, I said, "Hey man, I was just kind of joking around. Hey man, do you need a freaking navigator?" And then the next day you were like, "Hey man, I'm going on 6 Smokies. You want to go with me?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I don't know. Maybe Bobby Frizzell might have to have somebody else ride along.
Yeah. So Edelbrock's putting it on. So there's a lot of Edelbrock people that are going to be going there. So my goal in that one is to get Plan Z. Now, Plan Z is basically going to get the whole drivetrain that was in this car. So the 8 3/4, the aluminum drive shaft, and the transmission that was in this car is going to go in Plan Z. I'm going to build the Slant 6 for it. That turbo that Dallas got for me, and the 650 that's going to go in the DZ 302 is going to go right on top of that thing, and we're going to let it eat, and we're going to live like hobos for a whole week.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I'm going to do it. But all right, I'm laughing because there's so much stuff going on here. It's like everybody's geeked out about this 6 Smokies thing. We're gonna turbo slant 6 dart. It's literally okay. If you've never seen Plan Z, Shane and I are both going to have a rigorous tetanus shot orientation before we even get in the car.
We're going to have to snort tetanus before we get in the car.
2, this thing is like a rolling cheese grater. It has holes everywhere. I mean, like literally everywhere. Even the freaking door handle has holes in it. Okay.
And there's a belt on the door. I mean, it's literally a floppy car. So
a jalopy.
Yes.
And then we're going to go try to spend a whole week in it, driving from point A to point B. And here's the thing that I cringed the most about. I think the drivetrain will handle it just fine. I think it'll be all the other Uncle Tony shit that's going to break and fall apart. Like literally stuff fall out of it,
I'm going to change some stuff. I do have disc brakes I'm going to put into it. I have a whole disc brake system. So I'm going to put that into it. I'm going to put a cage into it. Not a cage. I'm just going to put a roll bar. I'll put subframe connectors on it. It's going to get Cal tracks, 8 3/4, 430 gear, and aluminum drive shaft. And it's going to have the very first trans brake ever from John Cope Racing. It's going to be in that car with that really badass 904 that I got. I'm going to put it right in that car. So yeah, with my adapter plate that I got. So it's way overkill.
Danny Boyd says that 40% sounds like 90%. He's talking about the Quadrajet when he was saying there's 40% on the secondaries. I used to call that the gates of hell. Like when you literally open the gates of hell on the Quadrajet, I mean, you can hear all 8 pistons in there groaning because it's such a large opening. There's only 2 carburetors that sound like that, the Quadrajet and the Thermal Quad. That's it. And, they're unique in their sound. Let's see. All right. Ron Ward says, Shane, let me know when you go to Blytheville. I announced for ECTA for a couple of years. It's a lot of fun, and I need an excuse for Gladys and I to take a road trip. I'm assuming that's a road runner extreme getaway. Then is what that's going to be, because Gladys, she likes to stretch her legs. I know that.
That's awesome. Well, dude, I'm all about it. Yeah, like I said, I got a couple things I'm going on, but that's going to be the very next car after I get Plan Z done. Plan Z is going to come sit right here. You'll see it in the background here pretty soon.
Let me tell you what I did for the AHRA today.
Ooh, what you got?
I got my APO box or my PO box back today.
Good.
So now I can get my mail at the correct PO box again instead of having it forwarded to my house.
So this officially means that you're open again for business?
Not yet, but I now have the means of doing that.
Oh, okay.
And nothing's changed. The address hasn't changed. Matter of fact, when I went, like, hey, do you guys still have box 309? They're like, you were the only person that was ever in it. Like, oh, well, I'd like to buy that one again. So now I'm good for a year, but we'll see where it goes from here. Let's see. Okay, Andrew Nelson says that his old Stude, and you guys have seen this. I don't remember what year it was. It's like, I thought it was like 53 or 4. Studebaker. Remember the one that Lark that he had at No Name Nationals in 22?
Yep.
When he was still recovering from his accident, he wanted to put a stick in it, but he couldn't drive it because his shoulders were all messed up from that accident. And so they put an automatic in it. But that's the Stude that used to run at the Maxton Mile for East Coast Timing Association. Let's see. BNR says, years ago I had one of my Pontiac 455s on Ted Borowski's dyno, 800 CFM Super Duty 455 Quadrajet, real deal used, was way lean, had 10 people laughing along with Borowski. I changed primary jets. Yeah, the Quadrajet, I'm so freaking fluent with them. I'll probably have all the tools there, and I can do a jet change or a metering rod change or the primary power piston change in like minutes. But I don't really want to waste a bunch of time with the engine sitting on the dyno. Let's see. Oh, he said it went from 300 horsepower to 485, though. Yeah, when you have enough fuel, what is it? The time for torque and jet for horsepower, right?
That's right. Time for torque, carburetor for horsepower.
And he says you can't get that Q-jet sound if you don't flip the air cleaner lid. Maybe I should do a video on that. I have a Q-jet air cleaner, a GM air cleaner. I could put on that Q-jet on top of the Easy 302 and flip that sucker over and see what it sounds like. So, oh, there you go. Andrew Nelson's plans to hit Blytheville in 2026.
That's mine. That's mine too. 2026. This year I'm going to get Plan Z going, and then after No Name Nationals, and then after the Smokies, then I'm going to get back on that car. And basically it's putting everything in, all the welding and all the fabrications already done on that car. So it's literally just assembling it then at that point.
All right. Mosale Parts, Ron Warren says the AHRA lives. It's just, it hasn't died yet. It's like I don't know if you would call it in the death throes. I don't know. Just kind of, it's been kind of on the shelf.
It's
Just
been in a
hanging in
coma.
there.
It's in a coma, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I guess when people get sick and hurt and they put them in the medically induced comas, that's where it's been.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a medically induced coma and laying in the same bed as fat Aunt Nancy, So things haven't been doing good for it,
Yeah.
but it's about to get better. Okay. So and Andrew Nelson says it was a 54 Studebaker. They have such a unique look.
Oh yeah, I remember that car. I do remember that car now. Yep.
Yeah. Beano Racing says I can state the secondary rod's not always the answer. No, it's not. Not at all. It's actually the wrong tuning thing, but it's so much faster than trying to add something to it, like taking the top off. Like pull metering rods and jets but when you're talking just dyno pulls, it's not drivability. The primary metering rods and primary jets are primarily just the driving, just the part throttle stuff. So, there you go. Andrew Nelson said it was 179.644 highest speed at Loring.
So that's a mile, or now is Blytheville a mile or a mile and a half?
That Maxton mile was only a mile. I don't know. I think Blytheville is longer than that.
I think Blytheville is like a mile and a quarter, isn't it, or something? It's a.
I'm not sure. I haven't been there. I've watched quite a few of Junk Car Willie's stuff, and I don't remember him saying. Well, he did say what the distance was, but I don't remember if it's a mile or a mile and a half.
Oh, he says Blytheville is only a mile. Okay,
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I Google mapped it.
Says that lid flip is worth 7 horsepower,
and
that's cool. I saw somebody do that on it. They did a chassis dyno when they did the lid flip, and it was literally worth like, I think 13 horsepower
at the wheels.
The lid flip. But
I looked at Blytheville on the Google Maps, and it's a massive like.
Well, see, okay, those places that they're racing are literally what drove me to join the Navy. My little hometown had an Air Force base that was humongous, and they closed it down in 93. So the year I graduated high school, I had to compete against 55,000 unemployed people, right? Yay, welcome to the job workforce. Everybody's unemployed, right? It sucked. But our Air Force base was Chanute Air Force Base in Rantoul, Illinois. And that's all these places are, is these leftover air stations that had these huge long runways for bombers, right? And Rantoul is no different. It's got like 4 mile long runway. So I think it's cool that they're using these things for something besides, just a paperweight, because that's my hometown. That's what they did. They cleaned out all of the gutters and trash in Chicago and imported them right into Rantoul, Illinois, and killed the town. So now it's just nothing but drugs and homeless and non-working people. Ron Ward, on a lighter note, Ron Ward says, it sounds like I need to pack a grill in the trunk of Gladys, fire up some bratwurst and steaks for Shane and Andrew in 2026 in Blytheville. That facility is huge.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Levi's Backyard Performance. What is the AHRA ET record? Is there one? We had some records that it did, but it's all dependent upon class. There isn't an ET record for the AHRA. It's more or less just per class, right? But I don't remember. I think I sent out 2 records so far. One was to a guy named Mike Wyatt that he died in 20 or 21. Thanksgiving of 20 or 21. But Mike Wyatt, and Bobby Frizzell knows him. Mike Wyatt was like, he and I talked almost every day. This dude was he was a solid dude. He was one of those people that you really, once you meet them in the car world, they will impact you big time. Ron Ward says 7 horsepower and 28 dB. I bet you it was the dB that really impressed everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. This is the sound. It was the impressive sound.
Let's see. Okay. That's more than high school cool, dude. I still have it on the Suburban. The Suburban still got the lid flip permanently. I have it permanently installed that way. Lout Burns says they always had Q jets on his 283s and 327 Chevys. That's like, I don't know if those are too small to make the Bawa, but that's, hey, I'm telling you, the singing Quadrajet is like literally its own noise. Danny Boyd says, I rejected the Air Force after the recruiter told me you aren't going to fly our planes. So if you wanted to fly, that's why I joined the Navy. I thought I was going to be able to fly. They were like, yeah, sure, you can fly. And you get into boot camp and you're like, man, where's all the guys that fly planes? They're like, that's an officer. You're enlisted. You'll never fly a plane. The closest you'll ever get is like get stuck in the air intake of one.
Yeah, washing them. You'll check the tires.
Bobby Frizzell says that Mike passed in 2020. Yeah, he's a solid dude. And matter of fact, Bobby Frizzell and I had actually contemplated making a race for that guy and do it old school because Mike Wyatt, he was a young guy. He was younger than me and Bobby. I think he was probably in his early 30s. He was one of the first kids to do junior dragsters and all that stuff. But he liked old school real racing when it was like you took skill. So it was like 4-speed, letting out the clutch, and it wasn't all about money in the motor. Let's see. Danny Bush says, my first car was a 4-barrel. It was a Q-Jet. Mine too. Well, actually, mine was a 2-barrel 350 Buick. Let's see. Being a Racing says a Holly double pumper is my favorite today. So easy to dial in. Haven't tried a VRS yet. Love my 4150 annular boosters. I honestly, I have to admit, I am probably the least knowledgeable person when it comes to a Holly because I have never been able to afford one. When I was in high school, they were so far out of my price range. They were like $300-$400 then. Then, like in my 20s and stuff, they were probably $500. Now they're like $700, $800. And I'm just not going to Quadrajet, $45, man. I'll leave the 25 horse on the table. Okay. Okay. Swears and Gears says, hey guys, any advice leads on building a modern competitive blown alcohol Hemi for a sand dragster. My dad and his friends have committed to build a new car and want to beat the national record.
Oh my God.
Oh, dude. You probably, I don't.
Pro top line, just go pro. Is it
top pro line?
Top pro line, just go straight there. Then that's where I would go.
If you want to do a Hemi, I mean, if you're set on the Hemi,
yep,
just go get a Brad Anderson Hemi. Like, the amount of money you're gonna have in that thing.
It's $100,000 for one of those engines right off the bat. Not let alone the blower. That's just the engine.
I would, to be honest with you, if you're going after the record, it's going to be big news anyway. But see, here's the problem you're going to run into. The record, if it's already set by a modern Hemi, blown alcohol Hemi that's doing it, and they already have the record, you're going to be really hard pressed to find something that they haven't already tried at this point, right? You need to come at it from a different angle. If it was me, I'd go get a 7.3 Godzilla motor, or I go find myself a Coyote and then put a turbo on that sucker so big it could suck up all the sand. Right? I literally would. I would build a freaking turbo. Like, look at it at Sick Week. That Snot Rocket ran like 6s in the quarter. Right? When I was in high school, 6s in the top fuel ranks had just fallen. Right? Top Fuel barely was running 6s at that time.
But these sand dragsters are only 100 feet. You're only going 100 foot.
Oh, it doesn't have enough time to build all that horsepower, huh?
Exactly. Remember that the sand is only 100 foot. So they have to, it's like all the torque right now. It's all about tire speed and whatnot. See, those other engines for the turbos and whatnot, they're great for once they're kind of coming in and then they start going down track, even at 8th mile. After the 330 mark, those cars are really moving. there's just not enough time for that. I mean, you could probably build boost; it can probably be done
It would have to have torque. You'd have to have a lot of torque because it's so
instant,
short.
and that's why the blown alcohol is the way to go in that, because it's power right now, right off the line, and it's making basically every time it's turning that screw, it's making full displacement air, and it's already at max boost right off the bat.
So really, it would be like the biggest cubic inch. That's the best thing to do probably then is build like a 528 cubic inch blown Hemi
Yeah,
to get as
I'm
much.
sorry, it's 300 foot. I'm sorry, it was 300 foot. I'm sorry. They're not very long.
That's half of an eighth mile.
Yeah.
I still would lean towards building a big cubic inch stroker style Hemi and have one that you can turn to the moon. So, I mean, gosh, get out the checkbook. Weinberg crank, an aftermarket race block that's like not even probably made out of cast iron. And then, but I think it would have to be as big as possible. Then the blower technology is big. If you're going to go, because, all right, with that short of a distance, you don't want to run a centrifugal style blower. You want to run a root style.
Exactly.
And
positive displacement.
yeah, and the best thing to do is what they got going now is like a 10 or 1271 high helix with like the super duper tight interference fit with the Teflon rotors and all that stuff. And that's the only way you can maintain all the boost is like get the blower so tight that none of it can leak by. And then they run like 50 pounds of boost on, and then the high helix is like having another set of rotors on it, right?
Yes.
So 50 pounds of boost on that 528, and you're probably talking 3,000 horsepower or more.
Easily. And put a little, if you're running a methanol, run about 50% nitro in that thing. Then you'll gain another 100, 200 horsepower right there instantly.
Yeah, but man, going after the record would be tough, but I think it would be fun as hell. I'd love to do it. Let's see. Ron Ward says he's currently making thermoquad and quadrajet noises.
I was in my head doing boop.
You know what? I think I might make a T-shirt with a quadrajet on it, and it just says "Bois," right?
with the lid up, flipped upside down, right?
Maybe I'll take a I don't know, page out of Bobby Frizzell's playbook and just have bald eagles coming out of the thing, right?
Call Tony's Hot Rod Garage, man. Have him, just give me your idea. He'll make it up.
A Bois shirt, huh?
Yeah, Bois, sure. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, Bobby Frizzell says that Mike Wyatt also started the Sega Superstock class. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. KS Skyhawk Buick 350 V8 Power says I was at U.S. Air Force Tech School in Chanute in spring and fall of 1966. Those months, the draft was an average of 36,000 inductees for a span of 18 months. My school was 6 days a week, 3 each 7-hour shifts. So,
wow.
Oh yeah, the draft, that was during the Vietnam War. So. Andrew Nelson says the 54 Studio whipped in final. That I was way outmotored that car. Had 18 records between Maxton 1 mile and Loring 1.5 miles. Highest at Maxton was 168.561. Highest at Loring was 179.644. Picture in Hot Rod. It was still all rusty.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's how it should have been. Yeah. That's kind of cool. I wonder if the rustiness actually killed some of the mile an hour.
So it's not smooth, right?
Yeah. Well, you would think that would have to make a difference on it, right?
Yeah, after a certain point it will.
Let's see. Okay, Swears and Gears says the record for top alcohol dragster in SoCal Sand Drag Association, their old car ran a Keith Black 540 cubic inch Hemi with Brad Anderson heads. Well, then that's kind of where you probably need to go.
Yeah,
that's where you need to start.
Do you remember that? Do you know that Verona was a sand drag before it was a drag strip?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So when I was first started going up there, it was a sand drag, and that's where I started seeing like the the blown alcohols, but there was very low participants in it. So that's when they decided to make it a eighth mile drag strip, and that's why the starting line is so funny, because they had to move it back so far.
Oh,
And
that's
that's
why
why.
the shutdown's so wonked up.
That's exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. Because the drag strip, where the stands are, the actual stands across the way, that was actually the starting line for the sand drags. That's why the starting line was so far back.
I always wondered why the stands were in the middle of the track.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's where the sand drag was. So they basically, you're starting, 200 feet behind the stands, back there.
Huh. I always wondered why that would happen. But, Verona, I love Verona. Verona has the most picturesque pictures coming out of there for any event that you do. It doesn't matter what
Absolutely.
it is,
Yep.
right? It just looks so awesome. Here's the downside. You're on top of a mountain trying to drag race in the middle of the summertime with the sun up. And
into
it's like,
the sun in the afternoon.
Yes, you're driving into it. Because it's a track that runs, east to west, and you're facing west the whole time.
And it's in a valley, and it goes right towards where the sun sets.
It angles the sun at your face.
Yes.
They actually normally take a break when it's like dinner time, because you can't race, you can't see.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked about was one day it might be like 62 degrees as a high. The next day might be 108. And it's we would go race madness, and everybody would be like, you'd pull in and get your pit spot, and it was nice and warm, everything was cool, and all of a sudden the temperature just keeps climbing. It's 108 degrees, and it's just miserable to race. And I don't know if you've ever been in the conditions where it was miserable to race, but I tell you what, there's nothing that you can't happen fast enough, right? You're like, I just want to get this over with.
Yeah.
But well, one day I need to find that. There's a video where me and Shane match raced in 2016, and right when we had to wait through like 4 lanes of staging lanes to get to go, and then right when we got up to the line, the dude in front of us just oiled down the track, the whole thing, right?
The whole thing.
And we're sitting there in the camera crew. I think it was 1320, might have been doing the video. But the camera crew was running around, and they were like doing pictures of me and Shane. I've said this on here before. I'm like all my gear. I got my freaking helmet on with my head, my stock and gloves and all that, and I'm like melting inside of there. And you look over at Shane, and he had like a fan out of a boat or a semi truck or something blowing on him.
I still got it in there, dude.
I literally wanted to go steal that fan from him, like right at the starting line.
Well,
it was so freaking hot.
On the passenger side, there's that little port that goes up to the vent there. So I have a fan that sits right there. So it pulls cold air out and it blows it right on me. So it's a little 12-volt fan. I put on the switch, and just it's amazing because it works good. So when you're staging lanes, you turn it on, turn it off, do your little deal. But yeah, we were sitting there for almost an hour. We were sitting there.
Ron Ward says, although I love the sound of a spread bore, Carter and Rochester, the sound of an Enderley fuel injection system through 871 makes the hair on my arms stand up. I'm right there with you. I like that. I like a fuel injected blown sound, mechanically injected blown sound. Oh, it sounds good, and they're snappy. When they got it right, they're right.
I love that mechanical sound. That's why I like mechanical flat tappet cams. It has a mechanical sound to it. I love it.
Let's see. Skyhawk Buick 350 V8 Power says, on my day off Saturdays, we went to the dirt track races at Danbury, Dan something. I don't remember. Okay, so you could have went to Danville to the dirt track races, or you could have went to Fairbury for dirt track races there in Central Illinois.
You know where I learned about that fan trick? That's not like my genius idea. I actually learned that when I was at Pomona, and I was watching some of the super stock racers go, and I was walking through the pits, and every single one of them had like this little plastic or steel fan sitting in there to cool them down. Every single one of them had one.
Oh, I've never had one, and it got worse when I took the window regulators and everything out, and I couldn't roll the window down, and and you throw all the safety gear in there, and it's like, man, the misery level just goes up and up and up. The faster you go, the misery level gets higher.
Higher. It sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you get to go faster, but the misery is so much higher. Like when you got to get the cage certified every couple of years, and it's like, golly, man, it's like throwing money in a hole right there.
Yeah.
That's
why I'm really looking forward to this Plan Z, because I'm going to put a cage in it. I don't want to go in or just a roll bar. I don't want to go any faster than 10 O's. I want to have that fun factor where it doesn't have to be certified. I just go to the track and I race it, and then the kids will learn how to race in it, and it'll just be an awesome car for them.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of what I wanted to do with my super stock Buick, was just slow things down.
Yeah. Have fun.
Let's see. Barrow's Garage says that my first running car had Weber 3236 2.3 liter Ford Pinto. I blew it up to burnouts in front of the shop the day I drove it home. It was also the first engine I rebuilt on my own. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
You know, I didn't say this, but when we had to sit there and wait for an hour, that was the very last time I drove this car in anger until 2024.
Oh yeah, it was, because it sat while you built the motor, and then everything else in life happened.
And then then kids, then I moved
job in where you're at now, and you went from Crower to Edelbrock, and then all the other things that happened in life. Yeah.
I was actually just telling my daughter about that. I was like, yeah, this car was running in 16 and basically 24. So it sat for 8 years before I did anything with it.
You know what? And the more I think about it, where is Schweers and Gears? I think Sheen is right when he said that the top pro line, just go get the top pro line motor, because they're freaking humongous 632 giant bore spacing. Put a blower on it, and you'll own that record.
You'll own it, yeah, because those engines are designed to get the Hemi version, because it RPM's better. So that way when you come off, you put a power glide in it, and just run it 1, 2, and let her eat.
He's saying that the last car was a 540 cubic inch Keith Black Hemi. They're now thinking a smaller displacement and lower final drive gears, 3-speed Lenko.
Oh, he's going 3-speed. Okay, yeah.
Well, he's only going to go 300 feet, right?
Yeah. I would, man. At that point, because they have those big tires with the cups on them, Lenko would be fine. Yeah.
And Clifford Monero says the Proline 4,000 horsepower. The problem is they come out with a new version every year, so somebody else will go buy one and they just outrun you.
Yeah. Well, don't they have those ones now where you technically lease it, so you own it, but for the year, and then you're basically paying on it for.
Yeah, and then you give it back to them.
Yeah, you give it back to them when it gets freshened up. Yeah.
Oh, Dizzy Izzy saying that his guess for the Easy 302 is 355 to 375 and 490 foot-pounds of torque. Well, I guess we're gonna have to see. That's stretching the number there for torque. That is. I don't think that little 302 make that kind of torque, but it'll make. When the guys were guessing 380 to 400, I think it'll probably do that.
Yeah, it's gonna be in that range.
38 Racing says, are aluminum drive shafts worth it in a low horsepower drag effort? Oh, that's even more worth it at that point.
I don't think it's worth the money, though.
Okay. In a low horsepower drag racing effort, anything that's low rotational mass is worth it. Anything. Yes. Okay. It's going to be the biggest gains that you can find without changing the horsepower of the engine. Okay.
Where I noticed is when I started RPM in the engine higher, I had a Denny's drive shaft in it before in this car. Then I went to the aluminum, and now it's got a carbon fiber. The biggest jump I noticed was from the aluminum to the carbon fiber. That was a big difference. The steel to the aluminum, I did notice a little bit, but it was less than a tenth on that, but it was really I didn't notice it in the 60-foot or anything. It was basically once it was already up and moving, there was less loss as far as accelerating that thing. And it just seems more rigid. The carbon fiber, you can feel how rigid it is. And I've had them all, and I don't know. The aluminum ones nowadays are pretty cheap. You just go get one from the wrecking yard and have your ends put on it.
So that's what I would recommend doing. Is go and get one out of, like, if you're driving a Ford, go find like a later model police car, have it cut down to what you need.
Mine's out of a truck.
Yeah, and then I would have that. That's exactly what I would do. But in low horsepower drag racing effort, anything that you can do to reduce the rotational mass is big in low horsepower stuff. You know, when you're limited to cubic inch, or generally when you're limited to cubic inch, it limits you to horsepower, right? And then if you go look at stock eliminator racers, you need to start looking at the same kind of tricks the stock eliminator racers do. They max out the suspension. That's the kind of stuff that they do. If you look at any of the GMs, they don't run a like turbo 400 transmission. They take them out and put them aside, and they put like a turbo 200 in it. And they might blow it up every 3-4 months, but it takes a third of the rotational mass to make it work. And so that equates to horsepower down the road. The other thing was that, like, is the trick that I like to do. Buick made aluminum drums for cars for years.
Yeah.
No one ever utilizes the aluminum drum. You can get them for almost anything, any platform. I grab them every time because it's like we put an aluminum wheel and an aluminum drum together, and you knock 30 pounds off of each wheel. Man, that's a huge difference, you know.
To me, it is worth it if you can get it cheap. I was just thinking, if you go and buy an aluminum drive shaft, they're like $1,500 brand new.
They're pricey, yeah,
they're pricey. So if you can get it cheap, then yes. But if it's a low horsepower drag and it's like a budget build, to me, it's not worth the $1,500 to get a custom built one. If you can do it for like under $300 or $400 with a wrecking yard one, absolutely. But you would make so much bigger gains by with $1,500 in my eyes by doing other things. You would gain, you know, a nitrous kit would drop you a second and a half.
$1,500 on that low horsepower drag racing effort would make it a high horsepower drag racing effort.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what he's getting at. Mostly old parts. Ron Ward says, Dallas, Shane, I realize they're finicky at best, but offer incredible performance. Why haven't any automotive race engine builders optimized to utilize desmodromic valve timing like Ducati? And if you guys don't know what this is, it's actually pretty freaking ingenious is what it is. It's a mechanical valve system that doesn't utilize a spring, really.
Yep.
It has essentially, I don't know what you would call it. It's like they got an overhead cam, and the cam itself has like two followers, an upper and a lower half, right? And they bolt together, and then you adjust the lash on it. And what happens as the cam's going around in a circle, these followers constantly follow it, but their action is kind of like, I don't know, oval, or it's not quite circular, I don't think. Maybe it is. But it moves the valve up and down. It's attached to this. And it opens and closes the valve. And it has to be like almost exacting tolerances, because you can't, there's no give when you close the valve and it's like got no more room to close, right? So
we often talk about this. It's funny that he brought this up, because we talk about this as engineers, just, you know, at lunch. Here's my take on it. Is I've often said this, is I think because it's just architecture. Most people are used to a big block Chevrolet head, right? Or a small block Chevrolet head or Mopar head. They're used to that architecture. They're used to that design to basically make a whole new, brand new design that's going to have this overhead valve on it. It's completely far cry from what they're used to. I think people in the import would probably be the first ones to adopt it, or someone with a modern style like Coyote engine would be okay with it. And I think it would just be too far from what people are used to start. But it's funny, because I asked the same question. That's a good question.
I love those things. They're okay. If you look back on it, it's Formula One technology from the 90s is what that is. And they were doing that, you know, back then. I like the idea. I really think what it is hard to maintain. for like a daily driver situation. And it's not really that it's hard to maintain, I guess. It's hard to maintain and justify the cost to make it work, right? And I think, I don't know how long Ducati's been doing it. I know it's been around since the 90s.
Yeah.
And they appear to go okay. But how many miles does anybody really put on a Ducati V-twin, motorcycle? I don't think anybody's putting hundreds of thousand miles on them. I don't know.
It's not all of Ducatis. These are just some of the racing ones, I believe. I don't think it's all of them are like this.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I
thought
could
they
be
were all
wrong.
that same. I thought they were all set up with that same V-twins kind of setup. But I know they got bigger cubic inch ones, and it would make sense that you'd have one that had valve springs instead of, something that you would have to work on that would be easier and simpler and something that was kind of archaic. Formula One has went away from this probably the early 2000s or late 90s when they started going to solenoid actuated valves, because that's the one I really want to do.
Yeah,
I want to do a solenoid actuated valve, because think of it like this. You get a solenoid actuated valve, and if it costs $1,000 per solenoid per valve, okay, so you get $16,000 in these valves. There's no camshaft. There's no spring. There's no rocker arm. There's no push rod. Okay. I want to change the cam. It's as simple as getting on the computer. I program my camshaft profile, and it's an on and off profile. There is no 300 lift. There's no 400 lift. There's 100 lift or 0 lift and 500 lift or 600.
Opening faster, as fast as it can go.
And I think they're actually solenoid. They're pneumatically operated solenoid valves, I think is what they are.
Yeah.
And it's genius. And I think it's infinite, because think about variable valve timing. You could literally have a camshaft profile that changes its every RPM by 1 RPM.
Yeah.
Right. And it's absolutely amazing.
So you have the most amount of torque throughout the whole RPM. You have it optimizes the horsepower. Yeah. Everything. Yeah. I love it. I think that would be the best.
Oh, it'd be the bomb, but I don't know if you could even make it work. That's the problem, is making it work, I think. And in all actuality, I think what should happen is, this is the kind of stuff where the federal government should be funding somebody that is an engineering firm to figure out how to make this cheaply, right? Yeah. And mass produce it. Because when you eliminate the camshaft, there's no more rotational mass of the camshaft. There's no more friction from the bearings. There's no more friction from the lifter faces on the camshaft itself. There's no more timing chain. There's no more, all that stuff is gone. Your valve train has become, a computer just like your injectors. And I think it's genius. And I think there's double the horsepower to be made by removing the camshaft. B&R Racing says that's a Singer sewing machine sound. So
no, it is. When we were talking about the mechanical sound, I love that mechanical
sound. Awesome.
Yeah,
it sounds good.
Mm-hmm. I love this car here, because this car actually has a set of our. When I was at Crowder, they have these lifters called Maximus lifters. Now that's what you put in top fuel lifters, like top fuel race cars that have a 904 diameter, and they're noisy because they're built like brick shit houses. But I love the mechanical sound of them.
Let's see. B&R Racing says he loves the drag and drive movement.
Oh yes, I completely concur on that. I think that's the future of racing, because first it was like the no prep stuff. It was the street racing, but you got to be 100. You got to be like a 4-second car now to even compete. You got to have an onboard controller, traction control. Even at our local events, those guys have got traction control and everything like that. The drag and drives are where it's at, because it's a whole week of fun. It is an amazing time, and it's awesome for content creators, because you have a week of content. It's just
and you just poop out a video every day.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, but I watch it. There is inherent expenses to it. Like, it is expensive because you got hotel rooms, fuel, food, all of it. You have none of the stuff. But like I said, I've said this before. Shane and I have already talked about this, and I got one that's going to shake the whole thing up if I can get my shit back together. Okay. BNR Racing says Ford Motorsport used to sell a 5-liter Mustang aluminum drive shaft ready to use for $150, rated around 550 horsepower.
Yeah.
Then Ron Ward says, and it was the all-wheel drive Aerostar as aluminum drive shaft that bolts into a Fox Mustang. It probably, to be honest with you, was that drive shaft. Excuse me. Ron Ward says, Shane wondering out loud, was the gain of the carbon fiber drive shaft over the aluminum due to the dynamics of the rigid carbon over the aluminum, or just the weight?
No, I think it was because it was rigid. I could actually feel it.
I remember why you went to the carbon.
Yeah,
we talked about this.
Yes,
it was because you went from the 904 to a Power Glide, and it was shorter, and it made the drive shaft longer, and then it became
critical speed.
It was a critical speed vibrational issue because the drive shaft was so long, the critical speed plummeted.
That's right.
RPM wise. And the only way to offset it was go larger diameter, but the only way to do that was with a different material.
That's right. So I would have to go to a 6-inch diameter aluminum one. There's not enough room in the tunnel for that. I'd have to go to these massive U joints, but it's not necessarily the critical speed. It's the half critical speed. So that's where people are like 70 miles an hour. They get those harmonics with the 204 Rs or whatever. But your critical speed basically will just cripple that thing. So because this thing is so long now, because of that, even though this engine set back almost 2.5 inches and down an inch, Power Glide's is really short. So it was like 51 inches drive shaft. And so because of that and the diameter I had, the critical speed was, I think it was 6,500 or 6,700 was the start of that, where that critical speed would be for that. And even with 1350 U joints, and with the carbon fiber, it went all the way up to 14,000. So your first harmonic, your first critical speed is starting at 7,000. So that's the very first one. But that's the first order is not the one you really need to worry about. It's the half one. It's the one at the higher end. So it would never see 14,000 RPM. But on the aluminum, the first order, the half order would have been half the critical speed would have been at 3,300, and then the other one would have been at 66. So it would have just crumpled and turned into a pretzel.
All right. So Bobby Frizzell says it. I was talking about to Levi. You'd rather see the HR do some old super stock races. I think that, I really had a genius idea. I think in like 2018 or 19, I was actually going to hold a race. And the name of the race was going to be the year of the AHRA rule book you used. And that's the classes you ran. That would be cool.
That'd be good.
Yeah, 67, 71, it'd be cool. And the people would dress up. But the whole thing is you'd have to meet the safety requirements of today, right? You don't have a choice. I'd get murdered by the insurance company. I couldn't afford to do it.
Hey, I want to jump way ahead. Dizzy Izzy saying something real quick. He was talking about he said he saw a single-cylinder engine that had 2 sleeves with slots that acted like valves. The outer sleeve cycled and timed the piston with no cam. It's called a Hercules engine. I love radial engines. I love all kinds of engines, but the Hercules engine is basically, it's called a sleeve and valve. So they twist like this, and they were in radial engines. And man, those. So, anyways, yes, one of my very, very, very favorite. Those things were literally indestructible.
Oh, I always found the fascination with the stuff like, okay, in the early 60s when the Corvair and stuff first came out, General Motors came out with a thing called Stirling engine. Actually, they bought the Stirling engine, the rights to the Stirling engine. But the Stirling engine was like a small little engine that ran on virtually just about any fuel you could throw at it. But it was most of the time was like hydrogen or something like that. But you could get phenomenal fuel economy with them. And I was always fascinated about stuff like that. My job in the Navy was finding submarines underwater and tracking them. Okay, and there's 2 types of submarines. There's nuclear-powered submarines, which has a nuclear reactor that essentially boils water and turns a steam turbine, or you had diesel submarines. And do you know the quietest of the 2?
Me?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear the question. My phone
What,
was
what was the quietest of the two, the diesel submarine or the electric submarine?
um. Well,
Or the diesel or the nuclear powered, I guess I should say.
I would say the nuclear powered.
No, because here I'll give you something that just like this is what we say in the Navy. What's a flashlight sound like? Right.
Right.
So that's your diesel submarine. It doesn't run the diesel until it's on the surface. They have to charge the batteries.
Oh, okay. So
Well,
it's
the
electric.
Stirling engine running on hydrogen provided the opportunity for the diesel submarine to no longer come to the surface. It didn't have to run a diesel on the surface. It could literally run that little Stirling hydrogen powered engine underwater, right? It didn't require oxygen to run. And that's what made it interesting. It changed the whole game. So instead of, oh man, I've been in a knife fight with a submarine for 7 hours. Too bad they're going to have to come up to surface and then charge their battery, and then you own them, because that's what would happen.
But
Now they don't.
Doesn't nuclear, isn't that electric also? Nuclear basically is just a big steam engine then, right?
Yeah, but it's constantly running.
Oh, so it's not electric. So
It is electric. It
okay.
runs a steam turbine,
Okay,
right?
so
But it doesn't run an electric motor. It runs a shaft.
okay, so see how I thought they worked is I didn't look into this, but I thought it was a turbine that would actually spin a generator to charge
No.
batteries, and it was an electric motor that would actually turn.
That would be the ideal situation, right?
Okay.
And that's where, when we started building stuff, I don't know. I realized a long time ago we're screwing stuff up. We're screwing stuff up because we're not really advancing from the 1940s and 50s technology. We're just refining 19 and 40s and 50s technology. And these ships, what the ideal situation would be exactly what you're talking about, where you have a steam turbine that runs an electric motor. You have no more gearing assemblies, no shafts, no bearings, no nothing. And it goes to an electric motor that runs a propeller, and it can go forward or backwards based off of the battery and the electricity.
It's instant torque. It's
right.
See, that's how I thought it, because you could turn that thing at 4 RPM, have a high pitch on that thing, and then it would just be instant torque, and it would be literally nothing. And that's how I thought they worked. I didn't know that a nuclear one actually made a steam turbine that actually was on a shaft that was spinning something. I didn't know that.
So
it's new.
Yeah, and I had the idea like, man, we should build ships with small little engines, around the ship. Like, say, instead of having one big engine room, you have 6 small engine rooms, and they're all throughout the ship. So in case you hit a mine and the ship started sinking and going down, well, you'd still have 5 of those engines above water, so it could provide power to a battery that would turn a motor, an electric motor for a surface ship. I thought that was genius, and it seems to be like we just keep continuing to refine 1940s, 50s technology and just leave the stuff that is common sense behind. Man, I don't know why.
Dude, for real, you just blew my mind, because I've literally have envisioned how these things have worked, and that's how they've worked in my mind forever, is that it was a steam turbine running an alternator or some sort of power plant, and the things were electric, and that's how they would do silent operation, because then it's not silent because you have mechanical turning.
Okay. Bobby Frizzell says the way we do drag and drive is not that expensive. Camp at the track, camp stove, and some canned food, cooler with drinks. It doesn't have to be expensive.
That's exactly how we're going to do it.
Well, and that's exactly, instead of pulling in at Hardee's or McDonald's and getting your food, you just go right to Walmart, you buy the stuff in the grocery aisle, and you go make something for dinner. You could technically probably pull it off for almost nothing. Like my dad was, okay, I'll tell you how my dad did drag racing, especially when it came to food. He always had a cooler, and in the cooler was like sodas or beer or water, but also it had his food, which was literally like a loaf of bread, a thing of bologna, and then mustard, right? Because mustard doesn't go bad, right? It literally, I mean, if you eat it within its life cycle, it won't go bad. It doesn't get anything like mold and grow on it. So that's how he did drag races. If it was 2, 3, 4 days long, he ate 2, 3, 4 days worth of bologna sandwich. So,
yeah, it's going to be inexpensive for us, because obviously my company's putting on the event. So getting free passes for us. So we're going to be doing that, and we're actually going to be driving down the tail of the dragon, which is going to be pretty interesting in a car with a spool.
All right. Edwards is there a strength gain going to a 2-speed turbo 400 versus a power glide? More than the gear ratio choices you have for first gear.
Yeah, I mean, there's just
Well, there's
it's just a strength thing. What's
it's inherent mechanical advantage because you're not multiplying. So you got to split the difference between the gears. You can't have the low first gear like it normally has. You can't have that because you could have too big of a spread between the gear set. So you're going to have a higher first gear, and your second gear is always going to be 1-to-1, right? But it's going to be a higher first gear. And since it's a higher first gear, numerically, the spread is pretty about as far as you can get apart. Okay, but it also doesn't multiply the torque inside the case like it did before. When you had the first gear, that was like the 248 gear set, the first low gear first set.
Yeah, the biggest difference is that with a power glide, you can still put a turbo 400 input shaft into it. That's really the big gain on it. You're gonna the power glide is going to take less power to turn than the 400, but the 400 basically is going to be the strongest thing right off the bat. As far as how it runs, as far as you're going to be able to put way more power through that than you can a glide.
The clutch material difference between the Turbo 400 and Power Glide is immense.
Mm-hmm.
It's humongous.
Yeah. And Sonex now has got this new low output shaft drum and clutch assembly that's in the back, and so it's all billet and it's one piece. So you're not really having two input shafts in the drum and where the sprag's at in the back there in your high band apply. It takes all that rotating mass out of it, so it's really fast and light. I personally like the Power Glide over the 400 just because it doesn't rob the power. Since I'm dealing with small power, like technically with the small block, that's the reason why I went with the Power Glide.
That's why I stick with the C4.
Yeah,
just because it doesn't rob anything.
Exactly.
Danny Boyd says GM was high tech in the 60s. They had turbocharging, fuel injection, and overhead cams, and all aluminum V8s.
Yeah, they were trying things.
And switch pitch.
wait. Second time.
That's a twofer.
The twofer, right?
Yeah. Let's see. Danny Boyd says, I want a Pontiac overhead cam 6. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. With something like Rochester fuel injection and a Corvair turbocharger coupled to a turbo 400 switch pitch. That overhead cam 6 would be cool. I've wanted one for years. And they're just like a Slant 6. They're only like 230 cubes.
Oh, okay.
They're not all that big. But it's overhead cam, and it came with a factory 4-barrel on it. It came with a Quadrajet, matter of fact. But what would be cool is something like he's saying, where you fuel injected turbocharged one, because I think it would be awesome. That overhead cam 6 Pontiac was not made long enough to really, really garner, and it wasn't enough stuff to really garner a big following, but it had the potential to really be a big winner. Let's see. Okay, Clint Street Machine says the tail of the dragon is 10 minutes from me.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be there. Well, look, did you look at the route, Clint? We're actually going to be right next to you. We're actually going to be by a few of our people that I know of. Buffdale Campo, we're going to be right by there at there's a drag. Was it Music City Dragway?
Oh, that's pretty far from Buff and Kim.
Oh, is it?
They're up in Clarksville. That's like, well, it's probably an hour and a half.
Okay, and then we're basically it's all basically that, and then we're going to be coming over to Knoxville, and then kind of going through that whole area right there. But yeah, and then there's one full day of driving, but there's no racing, and that's the day that we're probably going to go down Tail of the Dragon.
That whole thing pretty much drives a circle around my house.
Yeah, right.
It does, yeah.
And it doesn't start. It doesn't start very far from my house. It only starts about 2 hours from my house.
Beer Rose Garage says when we were doing the monster truck circuit, people would ask how much to buy it. I'd tell them 70K, and I'll throw in the bologna in the fridge of the hauler.
Perfect.
That's probably what he entirely lived off of. I mean, if you ever see how I do no name nationals, usually I don't end up with enough food, so Professor P ends up making me eat. But normally I'll take like 20 packages of spicy tuna and had breakfast shakes in the morning. I had a gallon of milk. I think that was the extent of my food at No Name Nationals.
Well, except for the steak and shrimp that I made.
You made me all kinds of Gucci stuff, but I had I went there like a hobo.
I made Clint, you, and his wife breakfast burritos. Remember that too?
Oh yeah,
had breakfast burritos.
You make all kinds of good stuff, man. And next year I think we're gonna have to ham it up a bit, because I think we're supposed to have more of an emphasis on the community cookout.
Yeah. Well, I think we should do that on Saturday. Where I'm definitely staying till Sunday for that.
Oh, yeah?
So yeah, because I want to go out and race on Saturday night. I want to see if I want to go out there and bet a little bit against people.
Let's see. Michael Schmidt says, is there a real benefit to micro polished gears at a trans and rear end?
Yes.
Also, is there one type of manufacturing or bearing for these that reduce friction significantly? Just wondering if I'm missing out.
Micro polishing the gears. The first thing I would do is I would cryo heat freeze them first and then micro polish them, or vice versa, however they decide to do that. But you're basically cutting down on friction significantly with that. As far as the bearings, I really couldn't tell you on that one. I would definitely get some decent lubricants, but at that time, the micro polishing the gears is definitely going to help you out on that one. But that's really only if you're really going fast. What I mean by that is if it's a low horsepower car and you're not, that would be more of a top end racing type of deal, road racing deal.
Yeah, it's like the ceramic bearings that guys used for, racing actually like wheel bearings.
Yeah,
but they're freaking 10 times more than a regular bearing.
Yeah, I cryo heat and then I freeze my gears, but that's for an 8 3/4 because they're kind of on a borrowed time anyways. But micro polishing if you're going to be doing like top end racing.
Let's see. Danny Boyd says the 69 overhead cam 6 went to 250 horse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty healthy. Unity Motorsports Garage, Andy Woods says, Shane, does Edelbrock offer a micro switch bracket number for the VRS? My Holly one will not work. Might have to fab one up.
I believe we do. Yeah, that's for the nitro switch. Is what he's talking about?
Probably. Yeah. Micro switch that you put on the carburetor.
Andy, when I get to work tomorrow, I will text you. How about that?
Let's see. Clint Street Machine says the store at the start is about 12 minutes from my front door.
Oh, wow.
Well, there you go, man. Maybe we could have like a big no-name nationals presence at what is it, Six Smokies, where we take Clint Street Machines and Bobby Frizzell and me and Professor P and Andy Wood better get in on this. Get Casper in the mix.
Well, they have a sick ward for that too, and we'll tell you guys where we're going to be. And we're going to live like hobos. So if anyone lives along the route, it'd be nice to take a shower. So how about that?
I need showers. I work good in showers.
Yeah.
But I'll have to show Shane my 2001 Guantanamo Bay shower. Like, it's pretty rough, man. You just take a water bottle, a big one, and stick it on the roof of your car for like 2 hours, and you come back and poke a hole in the lid, and you take a shower with it.
Yep.
So, yeah, Buff Del Campo says the hot dog cooker at No Name Nationals. I had the hot dog cooker that Buff brought along and some hot dogs, matter of fact. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Oh, man, I'm getting killed with this. Whatever this thing is going on. Dust Devil Garage says, Dallas, we always bring too much food to No Name Nationals. All you have to do is stop by the Dust Devil pits. Oh, I wasn't looking for any food. I just brought food along, and that's all I had.
Well,
Right?
he camps next to me, and I actually I make it happen because I plan for it, and we
Oh,
have a refrigerator so in there.
I was wrong. Danny Boy says 250 cubes, not and 195 horse. I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Okay, I'm
That,
sorry. I
that's
screwed
that's
that up.
Slant 6 material. Then that's about right.
Okay. Heavens Mopars, my no name nationals trip is eating just like that. I'll make the leftovers from the restaurant last all weekend. I always feel blessed when I'm invited to eat with someone there. Oh well, Scott, if I knew that, I would have thrown some food on the ground for you.
Just come by, man. We always bring way more than we need.
Yeah. Oh, see, there you go. I thought it was pretty high. The 69 Pontiac overhead cam 6 Sprint 4-barrel Q-Jet was 230 horsepower.
Oh, it was on YouTube. Bitching.
Yeah.
There was someone saying earlier up here that I saw. He goes, he's like, I don't think I want to drive tail the dragon with the spool. Too many sharp turns to make sure you stay in your lane. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to pump up the tires to like 40 to 45 pounds in the rear, just so that they can.
Well, you don't have to worry about a spool. I think the rear end that you got in that thing, doesn't it have a factory limited slip?
No, because I'm putting my 8 3/4 out of this car that was in there.
Oh, okay. So we'll have a spool.
We'll have a spool, and we're going to have an aluminum drive shaft in my 904 that was in this car when I raced you.
Oh, here you go. Here's Vintage Adventure Drives. He's the one that's doing the 318 stick shift car for No Name Nationals for the Triple Crown. Finally registered for No Name Nationals. I started the 4-speed swap on my satellite yesterday. Well, congratulations, man.
Awesome.
I hope you get it like swapped and dialed in and everything before the event, because I'd really like to see that sucker fly.
And remember, get the discount now that you're registered. John is going to send them your name, and then that way you can start buying parts at like 15 to 20% off. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's just a perk. So yeah, that way you can get your parts.
Mohawk 62 says if you go hungry at No Name Nationals, you're not trying. Man, I tell you what, I think back at No Name Nationals 23, like 22, I was pretty busy. I was like running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to keep up. 23, I was like on the best diet plan in the world, the divorce diet plan. I had lost like 50 pounds. So things were going good for me. I was doing okay.
Oh, John's saying that he's after this one. Go ahead.
Oh, Vintage Adventure Drives is running third in No Name 500. He's doing good things. Sweet.
Awesome. Good. Congratulations. Awesome.
Yeah, I hope he wins it. You put the effort in, buddy. You're going to end up hauling in the trophy.
Frizzle Racing saying a spool, a 4-speed, and towing a trailer on the Dragon. Well, dude, there's gonna be a lot of people doing that. Did you see how many? I think they have 42 gassers that have already registered for 6 Smokies. Have you seen that?
You told me that. I'm
Yes.
actually kind of considering maybe I should throw my hat in the ring to run in the event and just bring my Suburban. And instead of towing a trailer, just throw everything in the back.
Yeah.
Slicks and everything.
You
Then
want a
just have-
nitrous kit? I can get you one.
Yeah, nitrous kit for the Suburban and just spray and pray.
I've got extra bottles.
It's got a switch pitch. We need a lot of extra bottles, dude.
Yeah. Well, I've got 2 15-pounders and 2 10-pounders.
Oh, sweet. That's a lot. But I mean, if you're just doing one pass at each track, because that's all you got to do is turn in a number on something like that would be pretty simple.
Yeah. So you basically, if you're doing you would do what, a 150 kit on that or 100?
Why not hit it with the 150? I mean, you're already there.
So if you're doing a 150 kit, that means that a 15-pounder will last you 4 passes at decent pressure. I mean, that would be decent.
It's 8 mile too, right?
Yeah, it's 8th mile. Exactly.
And it is a big difference between my Suburban running nitrous and your and the Cookie Monster running nitrous. When you're running like 5s, and you got the nitrous on for 4.5 seconds of that 5 pass,
Mhm.
and the Suburban has it on for 19 seconds. It's a big difference. Remember the deep on the
Yes.
side at No Name Nationals? That's a reminder of how the rollout on this thing.
Yeah.
Deep, right?
Yeah. Now they're going to allow hard tires and street tires, but you have to wait till the very end before you can make your pass.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
because I'm running hard tires. No, what if I put slicks on it?
Well, if you do slicks, then you can run in rotation.
Sweet. Buick Smith says, just wanted to mention for all you folks out there, you can cryo parts at home. Get a hold of a cryo tank from a local veterinarian. They store bull semen in them, soak parts for 2.5 hours, then retemper at 300 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm gonna screenshot that one. I'm gonna get it for the bull semen, but then no, I'm kidding. I'm just gonna cryo parts. But yeah, I can do that at home.
There's a
That
lot of
doesn't sound hard
YouTube
at all.
people that show you how to do it. The only reason why I like having someone do it is because they can set the temperatures exactly, and it doesn't go through. It doesn't change temperatures too slowly. So when you're going from, it's slow. It does it at the right speed.
Let's see. Paul Pahole brings up a good point. It'll be lots of fun if it rains on Tail of the Dragon with these car pools and slicks and trailers.
I don't have wiper blades. I haven't looked at the car. Does it even have a windshield, or is it just plexiglass? I don't know.
I don't remember. 38 Racing says, Dallas, will I have to bring you a 455 after you spray yours? No. My Suburban has a 400. It'll actually take more abuse than the 455. But God, could you imagine the torque if I sprayed a 455? The earth might rotate backwards.
That'd be awesome. So I'm going to go to this vintage adventure. I'm going to go subscribe to him real quick before I forget. Gesundheit. Here we go.
Else2 Kid says, do you have to remove the bull semen first when cryoing? Well, you don't have to. It's just highly recommended.
I'm number 280. I just subscribed and I'm number 280. So there you go.
Well, I guess now it's my turn, huh? Where is it?
Okay, vintage Venture Drives. It comes right up. It looks like it's a 70-something Dart, 75 or something.
What in the world? Why is mine not coming up?
I don't know.
Let's see here.
Yeah, I put in there, it was 279 and I became 280. Let's see where he's at now. 280. I was number 280. Boom. Oh, is it a scamp? Okay, so it was a scamp. It's hard to tell from the front. I'm looking at a really small picture.
Why is 9 it's not coming up for me? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. No, YouTube is putting all kinds of promotion shit in front of it, so I'm thinking that's the channel.
Oh.
All right. Let me go there. Subscribe. There you go. I'm just now subscribed. There's 283 now.
Wow.
Oh, there you go. And John put up the link. So look down here on the right-hand side for the link if you need to get in there and you're a knob like me.
Okay. Yeah, Edward, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to use Rain X. I'm going to polish it on there and put some anti-fog on the inside. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to figure it out. And I don't have to drill holes to release the water because there's plenty in there already in the floor. So
Okay, well, Edward said that you just use some Rain-X on whatever you're using for a windshield, and you'll be good to go. And use some anti-fog on the inside.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know if the windows roll down in that thing. Do they?
No, they're actually on belts. So
Oh,
they're
like
they're
super
the old
stock.
school. Yeah, super stock thing. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to end up having to wind it down. It's already been an hour and 55 minutes, almost
Wow.
56 minutes.
Wow. Anyways, someone was asking where we're going to be doing this Tail of the Dragon. Actually, that's going to be for Six Smokies. So I'm going to be taking Plan Z. This car is going to be being put in the box here soon in the trailer. And then the green car comes in. I take the cylinder, that engine out of the green car because I'm going to use that cylinder head. And then I'm going to put on one of these here and I'm going to build that thing. And the car is going to come in, Plan Z, and I'm literally going to use all the parts that came off this car, the 4.9-inch and all that went in here. The 8 3/4 that came out, that's narrowed. It's going to go on Plan Z. I'm going to use the cowl tracks that was on this car. It's going to go right onto that. The old transmission, the old gear, everything's going to go from one right to the next. And I'm actually going to work. Most people will put the engine in and work backwards. I'm going to put the axle in, the transmission, and then the drive shaft, because I'm going to set the transmission wherever the drive shaft works, because that's where it's going to be. And I'll make whatever mounts I need to make it.
You got those the centerline Warriors on the front of that now? Is that what's on there now?
Yes. Yep.
All right, dude.
Those are your tires.
Oh, they were my wheels and tires. I'll give you the shirt that goes along with them.
Okay.
I'll tell you the story about it.
Okay. But they're going to get changed because right now they're 5 on 4-inch. I got 5 on 4.5s because I want to put disc brakes on.
Those are Unilug, so
they
have a multi-bolt pattern.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, good.
I think.
Perfect.
I'm pretty sure they were on GM. See, the story behind that was my dad's best friend. His name was Mark Reinhardt. They called him Tooney, and that was his stuff. He ran at Pink's All Out in like 2008.
Oh,
right. And he ran in Morocco, Indiana, US 41, and he was the only participant that got asked to leave because the car was too sketch.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that was the guy, right? Like it was running 940s. It was a 65 GTO with a hairy ass big block on methanol and Ron's racing toilet and just lots of stuff. Tony was all about going fast and not about tech guy. He'll have to catch me down the track. That was Tony.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'll give you the shirt that goes along with it because I got a shirt from Toonies.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're gonna if they have the multi-lug on them, then perfect. They're gonna stay right there on the car then.
Yeah, and I think I might actually have some of those because they take special lug nuts for those centerline wheels. They're real thin. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, John said that Mean Street Mopar is now running third in No Name Nationals or in No Name 500.
Mean Street. Am I with Mean Street?
I think you are because I think Mean Street sounds like one of the guys that's been on there for a couple of years now.
Let me check.
So Danny Boy says sketch equals credibility. Tony was like literally the real deal, right? He was the dude that would go buy like 5 cars and make one. And it'd be like a 421 Super Duty motor with a 4-speed that he cobbled together in a 65 GTO that you could throw a dead cat through the quarter panels. And he altered the wheelbase using a hand saw and a couple pieces of 2x4 and then dump the clutch at 9,500 and just hang on. That was Tooney. He was like the no shit, real deal, hardcore, build stuff at home drag racer.
Oh, by the way, there's going to be some stuff that I might need from you guys because Tony took out all the lights and all the buckets, and I got to actually have some driving headlights on it. So I might need some buckets.
No, dude. We'll put some Casey highlighter lights on it.
No, because the rules say it has to be DOT approved style tire lights on it.
Oh, really?
Yes. There's a rule.
Dude, I wonder if we can just go to the junkyard and get some headlights out of something. Like 2014 Impala headlights. Just put them in there with baling wire and stuff. It's a DOT headlight. You know, then you get to the track, you unvelcro them, and you throw them in the back, and you go
I wanted it
race.
as light as possible. I just wanted it as light as possible. That's
Well,
the
what's
whole
lighter than a headlight that you can remove?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Take it off at the track, go down the
Yes,
strip,
that's what I'm
put it
getting
back
at.
on.
Yeah, and then on the back, you know, the lights. You just do the trailer lights thing on the back, on the
Oh
trunk
yeah.
there.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do on the rear. Absolutely.
All right. Well, it is been that time. It's 2 hours. Shane and I got 42 seconds of overtime. So thank you guys for sticking around tonight and check us out again. Smash that like button on the way out if you haven't already.
Yep.
And we will see you next Wednesday.
You guys take it easy.
We're out.